Thank you all for being here in this webinar or recording if you're watching it on record. I'm Frederick Middlebrooks. I'm a loan officer with Van Dyke Mortgage. So I spend most of my days and a few nights as well originating loans and trying to help people get qualified to purchase a home. So that is my joy, it's my passion, is what I love to do, and it's what I love teaching as well. So on this segment, though, we're actually talking about home inspections, which is a very important part of the home buying process that you want to make sure you don't skip over because throughout the pandemic, a lot in 2020 and 2021, with homes flying off the market, a lot of people were foregoing their due diligence periods and foregoing home inspections. And I know that there were some people out there that had some buyer's remorse for some things that got discovered after they rushed into that home purchase as well, that they paid $40,000 over asking price for. So there was a lot of stuff that happened in 2020 and 2021 that, now that the market has cooled down a little bit, we can focus on some of the stuff that should be happening, like getting that home inspection and everything. So with that, I won't take up any more time. I wanted to introduce Jean Casseus. He is a InterNACHI certified professional inspector. He has been doing home inspections for many years now, has his own company doing home inspections and everything. So he's very knowledgeable and has graciously blessed us with his time this evening to talk a little bit about home inspection, some of the things that we can look out for, and answer some questions if you have those as well. So I'll turn it over to you, Sean.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to you this evening regarding the home inspection. It is definitely one of those critical pieces in the buying process. Not because I'm a home inspector, I would never recommend someone skip that process. And when we look at, as you've mentioned, been doing home inspection now for the last 5 years. That's something I love, enjoy, have a passion for. And just prior to doing that, I did banking, doing analytics, which is very similar, kind of take a look at something and be able to provide input and recommendation on just process improvement. And so it was definitely a seamless transition into the home inspection. I won't bore you with any more biography. You're here for us to talk about home inspection. So we're gonna jump right into home inspection, and then now this will be interactive. So it's not just gonna be me talking. So this will be very interactive, just for us to enjoy this time together. So all right. And so, we'll start with the basic. What is a home inspection? Now, this is the interactive part where you participate. You tell me, what is a home inspection to you? Anybody?
Well, to me, I guess, is when a person goes in and they're looking at all of the details of what's going on behind the scene in a home, in the walls, up under the crawl space, and, different things that they're looking for that you can't just see. That's obvious. They're looking for the unobvious things in the home.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just say inspecting the home for flaws, things that could be wrong, or things that might need to be addressed.
Awesome, thank you. So with the home inspection, it's a non-invasive observation and reporting. Now with the home inspection, we're not going to be taking apart anything. We don't turn on valves, shut off valves. So if the water is shut off, we won't turn that on. Same thing, gas. So, you are right. We are looking for things, defects, and with an inspection, really, our primary focus are safety and maintenance. So we're looking for anything that would pose safety to the occupants, whether it's the current occupants and our clients that's looking to purchase the home. So we want to ensure that anything safety that we find. Those are documented with the visuals as well as our recommendation. And then in addition to that is maintenance. You know, delayed maintenance can be costly down the line. And so we're looking for anywhere that there is delayed maintenance, any neglect, we're documenting those as well. And we're creating a report and ensure that our client is well informed of the product that they are getting ready to buy. I think we can all agree we have certain items that we wouldn't buy without trying them on. Like, for instance, I wouldn't go buy a pair of shoes without trying them on to make sure they fit well. And so when buying a home, you know, it's one of those things you want to ensure this is what an inspector is going to do for you, is to ensure to give it that try for you, to make sure to let you know, to uncover the things that you can't see. Like Mrs. Benton referenced, going in the crawl space, you know, going in there to see what defects you have under there. Is there anything with the foundation that's concerning? Are there any leaks? Are there any stains? Anything that needs to be addressed? And so definitely you guys are on point with your definition of a home inspection. And so what are some of the things that we inspect during a home inspection?
I would say the systems, the HVAC system, water heater, those type things, those major things, roof. Yeah, those are those large ticket items that you want to make sure are operative.
You're right on point with that. And foundation is one of those major things. So we look at foundation, we're looking at roof, we're looking at your plumbing, we're looking at electrical, the HVAC, water heater, we're looking at your exterior, we're looking at the ground. Is there any potential for you know, water to be pooling by your foundation? So we're looking at all of those things, and anywhere that we find a defect, we're gonna document and we're gonna make our recommendation. And so we are looking for those major ticket items, and we're not so much on cosmetics. So whether you have a, you know, minor scratch on the wall, stains on the carpet, depending on how egregious it is, you know, we'll document it. But for the most part, we're looking for those big ticket items. You would want to know if your HVAC is working, if it's the summer and you're getting ready to buy a home, and vice versa, your heating. We're going into winter, you want to ensure that you're going to have heat. So we will test those items as of the time of the inspection. And so really your major ticket item, not the cosmetic. So that's our primary areas of focus on an inspection. And purpose. Why do we get an inspection? What does it do for a buyer?
Peace of mind.
Absolutely. Gives them peace of mind. Anything else?
Negotiating tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a negotiating tool, because if you're buying a home and the roof, you know, is at the end of its life or is leaking, you would want to know that. Those are things that now you can go back to the seller along with your agent. You get with your agent to figure out, you know, what plan of action, how do we, you know, proceed in this transaction. And so it's definitely, and it's also something you can use for maintenance down the line, because again, a lot of the things that we document in there will be things for maintenance. They may not be things that you need to do now, but as a homeowner, you can refer back to that inspection to kind of tell you there are certain things, your HVAC, you should service them, you know, as we're going and changing seasons. And so those are things that you're going to find on there as well, that can help you with maintaining the home. So absolutely. So the purpose of it is it does give you that negotiating tool. It gives you that peace of mind, and you get to know what you're getting. You know, it gives you information about the product that you are getting ready to take control of. And so it's definitely an important part. You know, it plays a great purpose, you know, of the home inspection. So wonderful answers. And so, when we talk about home inspection, sometimes you have clients that's getting new construction. Do you need an inspection for new construction?
I would say yes.
Mhm.
And why would you need one? It's a brand new home.
Because
I would say
man is building it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are human and we make errors. That's every single one of us. And so we're not perfect. And some of the things with new construction, maybe the checks and balance, as the home is getting built, you have a lot of subcontractors coming in and out. And I don't know that there is so much with checking behind the subcontractors. And so as a buyer, that's where you bring in a home inspector to be able to provide that quality assurance of that work. And so it's definitely a necessity. Again, I'm not saying that because I'm a home inspector, I'm saying that because of what I've seen, with new construction. And so it's definitely something that a buyer shouldn't skip because it's a brand new home. Oftentimes, buyers may not even know that it's a brand new construction that they don't need an inspection. And so, but it's definitely one of those things that I wouldn't skip as a buyer just because it's a new construction. And here is an example of a new construction, one of the ones that I did. This is water sitting by the foundation. And so this was something that I've documented for the buyer on their new construction. And believe it or not, the builder didn't address it. And I spoke to the client months later. They said water is sitting by their foundation. This was something that was called out on their report, that the slope, the way it's graded, it's not going to work in the future for your foundation. And so this was something highlighted, and still wasn't addressed by the builder. So the other piece to it is that there's got to be that follow through, making sure that the things are addressed. Because in this case, having water sitting by your foundation, that's something that can be very costly as it begins to impact your foundation. And so this was something, at a new construction. As you can see, the debris, all of the debris that's there. The house had just gotten house wrap, and it hadn't been. It was a pre-drywall, so it was before they put drywall up. Kind of did a full inspection for the client, and this was, some of the things that we found. Others here, you can see that there is exposed nail heads, which you shouldn't have. It may not look like a big deal, but over time, as water gets in there, that's leaks. That's potential leaks that you'll have. And so, and those are things that, can go without, if that goes without being addressed, again, you have leaks that poses, other potential issues. Here again, you see there is stain that you have here that was on the wood there. And so as you saw in the first picture, sometimes your framing, the wood is out in the open and it rains. And when that gets put up, sometimes stains. These are things that needs to be treated before the walls are covered. And so you would know that, once the walls goes up, these are things that you can't see anymore. And so that's why, pre-drywall helps to identify those things, making sure they're treated. And then once they're treated, then the walls can go up. So again, you can see reason for a new construction. This was just one, and this was just very little of what I found. There were plenty more things to be addressed at this new construction. And so again, not something I would advise any client to skip on the home inspection because it's a new construction. And this is just in my contact information. Wanted to make this really more open to give you opportunity, ask questions about the process as a whole. With the home inspection process, typically it's a buyer You find most of it is a buyer looking to buy a home. But outside of that, there is pre-listing. Like if you're considering selling, there is the option also to do a pre-listing. We'll do a full inspection as if this was a house you're buying, and this lets you know. And the benefit of a pre-listing is that you can avoid some of those things down the line, that's those surprises, because if you know, you can address them even before listing the home. So this is another service that we offer, to be able to assist clients in making sure their home are ready, and it just help with the process to ensure that there isn't limits the delay that you would have if you encounter a surprise that now you got to address, that buyers coming back saying, hey, this needs to be addressed. Having a pre-listing will uncover those things and help you to just get ahead of them. And also, these are things that you can include in your disclosure. So once you know it's disclosed, it's no longer a surprise. As a buyer's coming, hey, this is no surprise to us. We knew about this. This is in the contract, so they know, and it helps the process to go along. And so I'm gonna open it up to answer any questions that you have about the inspection process as a whole, and any questions you have for me as a whole.
Well, I have a question too. When is the best time? At what part does a buyer have the inspector to come out? Because the a lender, I guess, could also have an inspector for their interest, I guess, but the buyer need to have one for theirs too, right?
Yeah, the buyer definitely. I don't know that so much a lender. I think Frederick will be better to address that. With an inspection is really what a buyer. Lender is going to require you to do the appraisal, but as far as an inspection, I don't believe that is something that is required of the buyer as far as the loan is concerned. So you're getting an inspection is to make sure because once you own the home, whatever issues with it is yours. And so, Frederick, I don't know if you can address that piece as the loan officer, whether or not that's required by the lender.
Yes. So on the lending side, we don't require inspections. Typically what we do is we require an appraisal to determine what the value of the property is. So if the appraiser, which will go into the home and he'll look all around inside the home and outside the home as well. So if there's things wrong with the house, like let's say, for instance, you have a HVAC system that's destroyed, or a water heater that's has issues, or a roof that's leaking or something, the appraiser will make note of those things and he will deduct that from the value of the home. So that's what we require on our end as on the lending side, is just the appraisal to determine what the value is of the house as is. And then in addition to that, some appraisers will also give a after repair value, which means that after repairs are made, this would be the new value of the home if repairs are made. But as far as inspections, the best time to have an inspection would be during the due diligence period. So when you go under contract for a home, generally you negotiate a due diligence period with the seller of the home, and that period can be as short or as long as you both agree. If you agree to a 5-day due diligence period, it can be 5 days. If you agree to a 10-day due diligence period, it can be 10 days. If you're a buyer, if you can get a longer due diligence, that plays in your favor because it gives you more time to inspect the home. And the due diligence period is that period where you can inspect the home, and if there's anything for any reason that you change your mind and decide to walk away, you can walk away, get all your earnest money, and you don't lose out on any, earnest money. You don't lose any of that, as long as it happens within that due diligence period. So if you have a 10-day due diligence period and you get an inspection and the inspection report comes back and there's a lot of damages, you go to the seller during that point and you're like, hey, the inspection report showed that there's rotting wood on the deck that might need to be fixed. The roof is leaking because the inspector will also go in the attic. And so you take the inspection report that the inspector draws up, and you go to the seller and say, hey, these are all the things that are wrong with the house, you know, some of the major things. And you ask the seller, hey, sometimes you'll ask them to repair it, or other times you'll ask them to reduce the price of the house. And if the seller is willing to repair or reduce the price of the house based on that inspection report, then great. But if they say, no, we don't want to do anything, you can buy it as is. And if you don't want to buy it as is with those repairs, as long as you're in your due diligence window, you can say, okay, I'm gonna walk, and you can take your money and walk and not lose out on anything. And you can break the contract in that due diligence period, and that's perfectly fine and legal.
Yeah, and the due diligence period, you know, is going to be dictated by the market. Like last year, as you know, Frederick references that because of competition, you had a lot of buyers that even forego the inspection and the due diligence period because they wanted their contract to be accepted. So that's something you're going to have that's kind of dictated by the market, what kind of market, if you're, you know, in a buyer or seller's market. And so, but with the due diligence period, he's, you know, exactly on point, is that you want to get it done as early as possible once you have that binding contract. Once you have that binding contract and clock starts ticking, so the longer it is, the better. But the earlier that you can get it, the earlier we can get a report back to you that give you the opportunity for you and your agent to get together to figure out, you know, what's the next course of action based on what's on this report. What are we looking to negotiate, and how we proceed with, you know, with this deal.
So what would be the cost range that an inspector usually would charge to inspect a home?
Okay, to inspect the home, it's gonna it's a few things that we look at. The square footage will be one thing. The year that the house was built is another. We look at distance, and we look at the foundation type. So if you have a crawl space that we got to go under, and so there will be additional for that. If there's a basement, there would be additional, and then depending on the distance. But a base inspection for a home starts at 400. And then you would just add on to that. So if you had a 2,500 square foot, which was a slab on grade within the area, you would be looking at 400. And then if you adding, you know, if you have like a crawl space, you have, you know, the year. And part of the reason with older home, your standards were more voluntary. So we tend to spend a little more time. Tends to be a little more findings if we're inspecting a home from 78 versus, you know, 2008, because nowadays you have the county that goes in certain things that they're checking that on a 1978 home, those will be, we tend to find a little more safety things that are not deemed safe today that we would find in that home to be documenting. And then one of the other things that we recommend, if all possible, is for the buyer to come at the end of our inspection. We give you a summary. So we will address, these are our findings, and answer any questions you have. So when you get the report, it doesn't look like foreign language, because it can, you know, if you've never seen an inspection report, you're looking at it and it's like 30 pages. You're like, what is this? And so, yeah, it could be, you know, a surprise. And so we want to level set, because there's no perfect home. We do new construction, there's always stuff. And so if we do a home someone's lived in, there's bound to be things. And it's just, we can put it into context. Some things could be safety, but relatively easy to fix. Others may not be. But having that conversation and having that summary at the end, we can kind of go over it with you and answer those questions for you. So that way, when you do get the report, you're clear on what you're looking at and have a better information for you to figure out your next step.
Yeah, I'll say that for me, I see a lot of people liking to use the inspection, again, to know the condition of the home, but also to be able to go back to the seller and try and negotiate down a little bit as well. Because like you said, depending upon the house, there's going to be something that's wrong. You do have some houses that the previous owners just try to keep in stellar shape. or, you know, some investor bought it and tried to fix it and flip it, and depending upon how good of a job they did with that might determine what you find as well there. But yeah, but a lot of people do use those inspection reports to try and negotiate the sale price of the house. If there's a water heater that's on its last leg, they might say, hey, this is on its last leg. A lot of times, if it's still working, a seller might not want to replace it, but maybe you can negotiate for them to pay for a homeowner's warranty. And so if they pay for a homeowner's warranty, then if you're living in the house and 6 months later that water heater goes out, that homeowner's warranty can cover that and get you a brand new water heater, and you don't have to pay for that out of pocket, because that could cost you $1,500, $2,000, depending upon the type and size water heater that you need. So the seller for a few $100s can pay for a home warranty, and that's something that you might be able to negotiate in there as well. So it's a good negotiating point. But like John said, it's definitely something that you want to do early.
Yeah.
Right after you're under contract, the next call you want to make is to an inspector so that you can get the home inspected, because your due diligence period is only so long. It's only 5 days or 7 days or 8 or 10 days, however long you negotiated to be in the contract. And so the sooner you can get it done, the better, so you can get it scheduled, review the report, and go to the seller for anything that you want the seller to fix, and then hear back from the seller as well. And all of that needs to happen within your due diligence period. So you want the inspection to happen as soon as possible.
Yeah. And you know, on the inspection report, one of the things that we do also is, like, when we look at water heater, we're gonna tell you the age. You know, there is a lifespan for all these things. So your water heaters, you know, within 8 to 12 years. So we may find a water heater that's 15 years old but still working. So you know, in those instances, you have to kind of try to put yourself in the shoes of the seller. If you have a water heater that's working, would you replace it because you're selling the home? So sometimes, you know, we kind of level set in that sense. You have to kind of put yourself in the shoes. If this was your home you were selling, you had something. I know just because it's age, it's working. In most instances, sellers are not gonna replace something that's working just because it's past. And so, but we as inspectors, we're gonna provide you that information because it's important for you to know it has passed the lifespan. I've had a water heater went 18 years before it went out. And so, you know, some don't last that long, but some do. And so you just have to kind of look at it from that perspective, you know, when you're going over the report with your inspectors to, hey, something may be old, but if it's working, more than likely a seller doesn't have an incentive to fix it. Now, if it's not working, that's another question. That's something else to address. So,
well, it sounds as though you might be saying, if I'm correct, that the inspection report can be used as a tool for your own benefit. If you move forward and purchase that home, you can use that report as a place to refer back to for maintenance and upkeep on the property. Now, when you're looking for an inspector, what should someone look for in an inspector? Are there any particular things that they should make sure their inspector have?
Yeah, so one, there's a couple association that certify inspector. There's ASHI and InterNACHI. So you want to ensure that they're certified. The other, a reference is always good, because if you can get a reference from someone who's had an inspection by the inspector that can vouch for them, I mean, that's the best. You know, that's the best thing we can do, is if we can find somebody who can say, hey, I've had an inspector and I got good service, they did a phenomenal job, by all means. The other is to do your own research on the inspector. Okay, so this inspector is with what company? So look them up and see what you can find. And so because your inspection is going to be as good as the inspector. So if you get an inspector that, you know, doesn't do a great job, that's the inspection report that you're going to have. If you do one that does a phenomenal job, that's the kind of report that you're going to have. And And again, at the end of the day, that's what you can use as your leverage. And more importantly, is for you to know what you're getting. I mean, it would be the worst thing for you to get a home and you get in and something critical was missed. Now you got, something critical that could be costly that you have to deal with. And so, we want to ensure the critical things that, they were addressed, the critical things are checked and provide you with a great way, to have to negotiate.
So thank you, Jean, for your time and everything this evening.
Yes,
and thank
sir.
you all for tuning in as well. So we'll be back next month again talking about credit repair, credit building. It's going to be a really good one. So thank you again for all of your time, for tuning in and everything. And you all have a blessed evening and take care.
You as well. Thank you for the opportunity. Y'all have a blessed evening.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have a good one, Keith.
Great information.